reprehensible. That is our vocabulary word for today. I'm going to answer the obvious questions of what does it mean and how do I use it, but then stay with me because we're going to have a look at 3 real-life example sentences, and I'm going to do a full in-depth grammar analysis on those sentences so you can really understand what's happening in the sentences, and it's going to help you level up your vocabulary and your grammar at the same time. So if you're studying for IELTS, CAE, TOEFL, or you just want to understand why something is considered a higher level, then this is the perfect video for you. As you can see, we are going to cover a lot of different things in this video, from pronunciation all the way through to more complex ideas such as the connotation and the register of the word. If you want to skip right to the end and have a look at those examples that analyze grammar, go for it. Come back, revisit the other parts later. Let's go. Reprehensible. Reprehensible. As some of you might know, I'm from England, but I lived in Canada for many years, and this word does not have different pronunciation in British English and North American English. Reprehensible. 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 This has got 5 syllables. Don't try and say it too quickly and combine those syllables together. You can't. But you do need to specify which syllables are stressed. Reprehensible. We've got 2 stressed syllables here. The main stress is going to go right in the middle on hen. And the secondary stress is right at the beginning. Rep. So, reprehensible. Reprehensible. When we talk about stressing syllables, we just mean that they are going to be louder, stronger, maybe a little bit longer. Reprehensible. Those final syllables have the schwa sound, the I call it a lazy vowel sound because your mouth is very relaxed. Reprehensible. Okay, so now we know how to pronounce it. What part of speech is it? This is really important if you're focused on accuracy in your speaking or in your writing. So the part of speech means, is it a noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb? So where am I going to put it in the sentence? In this case, I look at the suffix, the end of the word, and I see able. So immediately I'm going to associate this with adjectives. You might not know what it means, but you know that an adjective describes a noun. So, challenge for you. Can you think of any more adjectives ending in able? Pause this video, think about it. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, do you have lots of able adjectives written down, or maybe just a couple? We do have variations on the spelling. So we've got able, able, able. We've got different types of able at the end. Today we're looking at things like incredible, flexible, visible, audible, compatible, eligible, responsible. I thought of quite a few. Hopefully you got at least 2. If you did not take me up on this challenge, make sure you try the next one in the next video. Okay, so we know how to pronounce it. Reprehensible. We know it's an adjective, so it's going to describe a noun, but what does it mean? Well, we're using this to talk about actions or behavior that is considered completely unacceptable. This could be according to society, according to your family values, according to company policy. It's something that if you ask most people, they would say that it deserves punishment. It is completely unacceptable. And it could even be something that's illegal. Take, for example, stealing. Stealing is a crime. But stealing from a charity for sick children? That's reprehensible. Scamming people. So nobody wants to be scammed, but imagine if that scammer is targeting the elderly and wiping out their life savings, their pensions. Well, that would be reprehensible. Now, in English, we are lucky, or maybe unlucky, that we have got lots of synonyms. So these words often have the same meaning, but their tone can sometimes be a little bit different, or the context where you're going to use them could be different. So some general synonyms for reprehensible would be unacceptable, completely unacceptable. Deplorable, ooh, that's a lovely adjective, deplorable. Disgraceful, disgraceful. Look at these really negative, unacceptable, deplorable, disgraceful. Or shameful, shameful. Shame is already negative, so shameful. You should feel ashamed of yourself for your reprehensible behavior. So obviously, from all of those synonyms that I just went through, this is a negative word, meaning it has a negative connotation. Your connotation is the tone, the feeling that you get from a word. There is no situation where reprehensible can be associated with anything positive. Sometimes our words are flexible, and it really depends on the context. This word has no flexibility. It is negative. Okay, so let's talk about register for a minute. Register is the degree of formality that a word has and how suitable it is for different situations. Now, although this is a formal word, reprehensible, it's not everyday casual word, it can be used in everyday casual situations. It's really going to depend on your own personal speaking style. So let's have a look at some possibilities. Let's imagine someone learning of their partner's infidelity. They're going to want a really strong word in that situation. Reprehensible fits perfectly. Or a parent finding out that their child had bullied one of their classmates. Reprehensible. And it's not only children that you could use this with. Let's imagine that I came home one day and I found that my beloved pooch had destroyed my living room. Rocky, this behavior is reprehensible. No treats for you tonight. Of course, my darling dog would never do a thing like this, but that's what I would say if it did happen. So, to review, reprehensible. This is a formal adjective that has a negative connotation and is used to describe actions or thoughts that are generally considered to be unacceptable. Let's take a look at some examples. Stay with me because this is going to get interesting. Collocations are absolutely essential if you want to sound natural when you're speaking English. I say this in all my videos and all my classes. So let's take a look at reprehensible. We know it's an adjective, and we know that adjectives describe nouns, and you should know that adverbs describe adjectives. So those are the two main blocks that we're going to look at. Reprehensible actions, reprehensible conduct, reprehensible behavior. All of these are really common combinations that you would hear together. You should also know that adjectives are described by adverbs. We don't have as many combinations of this, so I think the most common one is morally reprehensible. This is really nice because it identifies that something might not be illegal, but it is unacceptable from society's standpoint in view of the moral code that it's breaking. So, a very common one that you'll hear, morally reprehensible. Now, some of you might know that I am not a fan of ChatGPT, but on this occasion, it actually produced 3 quite good sentences. So these are the ones that I'm going to be looking at for an in-depth analysis. If you're interested in that, please keep watching. And if you've decided to give up and go and watch videos of cats, then great, but please subscribe anyway, because you might really like my next video better. So I'll see you then. His reprehensible behavior towards his colleagues led to severe consequences in the workplace. The company's decision to exploit loopholes in labor laws was widely viewed as reprehensible by the public. The politician's reprehensible remarks sparked outrage among constituents and fellow lawmakers alike. So let's go and investigate the grammar in these sentences. His reprehensible behavior towards his colleagues led to severe consequences in the workplace. We've just been talking about collocations, and you can see that clear collocation, reprehensible behavior. But there's another collocation as well, severe consequences. Now, if you're not sure what is a collocation and what is not a collocation, that's where a teacher, the internet, sometimes ChatGPT, comes in really handy, because these are common combinations of words that just sound right. So if they don't sound right to you at the moment, it's because you've just not heard them enough. The more you listen to things in English and the more you read in English, you're going to start seeing the same combinations of words. And you go, that must be a collocation. Now, I love prepositions. We do have to be careful if they can be substituted for a different preposition and the meaning stays the same, or whether it's a totally fixed preposition, you just don't have a choice. Or in this case, we've got a little bit of flexibility, but the meaning changes slightly. So the first one, his reprehensible behavior towards his colleagues. This is saying his actions, his manner, his style directed at those colleagues is reprehensible. I'm getting the impression that he's a really angry person, he's shouting, he's maybe very demanding, so reprehensible. If we substitute this and use with, now this is a little bit different, because I can say my behavior with my family is a little bit different to my behavior with my friends. So this is not really saying my behavior is directed at my family, it's just how I act. And the next preposition is actually a prepositional phrase, because it's talking about the location where this is happening. So in the workplace, as opposed to at home. So prepositions are used to show the relationship between different elements in the sentence. In the first one, it is the relationship between the behavior and the colleagues. And now we're looking at the spatial relationship, the location of the consequences and the workplace. So take a look at that green phrase that I've highlighted, led to. This is an irregular verb. It's the verb lead. And it's being used here as a transitional device or a cohesive device. You might hear them called connectors or linkers. So it's focusing on the cause and effect relationship. It's indicating the result. So step one is his reprehensible behavior, and then the result of that, we've got severe consequences. And I know that because of that linking device. A lot of the time when you're giving a presentation or you're trying to explain your ideas, it might make perfect sense to you what the connection is between various elements. But if you don't make that really clear to your listener, then I'm going to get confused and I don't really know what you're talking about. So these linkers just make it easier for your listener to understand your main point. Oh, pronunciation of the dreaded word colleagues. Colleagues. I've been teaching for more than 20 years and I have heard this pronounced incorrectly thousands of times. So let's take a look at this. There is a difference between my co-worker, a colleague, and university, college. What's the difference? Well, it's the vowel sound. We've got colleague has that long E. College has that short I. That consonant is different. Colleague, g, g. College, j, j, j. But now, what happens when we compare the plurals? This is where it gets really obvious when you're making a mistake. So, my co-workers are my colleagues. 2 syllables, colleagues. But when we talk about different universities, colleges, colleges, 3 syllables. So keep practicing this. I guarantee you've made a mistake at some point in your life, so don't make it again. Colleagues. I work with colleagues, not college or colleges. The company's decision to exploit loopholes in labor laws was widely viewed as reprehensible by the public. Let's start off by looking at the collocations. The first one, a reprehensible decision. Yes, these words are not directly next to each other, but they're still considered a collocation because reprehensible is describing that decision that was made. To exploit loopholes. Ooh, that is a common term, unfortunately. We hear it quite a lot. Labor laws. Note that I've got the British spelling of labor here. If you're American, you can remove that U and have labor laws. Same pronunciation, different spelling. And widely viewed. So this is not by a small select part of the public. It is a broad opinion, so widely viewed. Now let's quickly look at verb patterns. So when you have a decision, it is always followed by an infinitive. A decision to do something, a decision to exploit. This is also true for decide. So I decided to do something. The company decided to exploit. Okay, so we mentioned some specific vocabulary. Let's look at that in more detail. So to exploit, they could have used the word use, to use loopholes. But exploit has the same meaning as use, but a much more negative connotation. So it's really hammering home the point that this company made a terrible decision. There's also that specific term, loopholes. Now, this is legal. We don't need to say legal loopholes, but that's also a collocation that is commonly heard. And these are the unfair advantages that you get because somebody missed something in a legal document. So there was some kind of oversight that's resulted in this little catch. Ooh, I can find a way out of this contract because in clause 19, subsection D, it says. So you go through something with a fine-tooth comb, or you get your lawyer to do that, and you can find a way out of the contract. Okay, let's take a look at that blue part now. So I've highlighted this because it is passive voice. I'm not talking about the tense, although this is also in past, but we're looking at this because it is focusing on the result of something, not the person who actually did that action. Now, if you want to include the agent, the person or the thing that did the action, then you can. You can put it at the end and just say by. In this case, we've got by the public. But the most important thing is the action that it was viewed. It was viewed as reprehensible. So with the passive voice, we've always got to have the verb to be, and it is with the past participle. So verb 3. In this case, it is a normal verb, a regular verb. So view, viewed, viewed. We don't notice any difference. But imagine if it was the verb eat. So eat, ate, eaten. The chocolate cake was eaten. I'm not saying that I ate it. I'm just saying that the chocolate cake was eaten. The politician's reprehensible remarks sparked outrage among constituents and fellow lawmakers alike. So starting off with collocations, we've got reprehensible remarks and also to spark outrage, a great collocation to indicate that it created, it started this outrage, and then the outrage just spread. We use spark, think about a spark that starts a fire. So if you spark something, you're starting it and then it's going to spread. I mentioned earlier that I like prepositions, and this is a really nice preposition, among, among. I often get students who mix up between and among. They are very similar, but they're not exactly the same. Between is when you have two things. Two. Among is when you have many things. So if you're walking in the forest, you would be among trees because they're all over the place. If you're playing a game of basketball, you might be between the two hoops. Let's take a look at that green word, constituents, not constitutes. Don't mix it up with constitutes, which is very similar in sound. Constituents. Now, constituents, these are the people who live in a very specific, defined geographic area for voting purposes. So we look at this and we see that schwa at the beginning, kun, constitu, chew, like I'm chewing my food, unts, another schwa at the end, unts, constituents. Now, I'm sure most of you do not use the word alike. It is not exactly the same as like. Alike can be an adjective, but in this sentence, it's actually an adverb, and it's got the meaning of in the same way. So, the politician's reprehensible remarks sparked outrage among constituents, that's group 1, and fellow lawmakers, that's group 2, in the same way. So those remarks had the same effect on both groups of people, and that's why we're using it as an adverb. Oh, you've made it to the end of the video. Fantastic. Hopefully you did not just fast forward to this bit. Now, the reason I made this video is because I often hear students saying they want to level up their vocabulary and they end up with all these really nice words, but they don't actually know how to use them properly. So hopefully you're going to be getting some nice vocabulary and then that grammar focus to help you understand where to put it in the sentence, how to use it accurately, and overall improve your sentence structures. So if you have found this useful, let me know in the comments, give me a like, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. I mentioned vowel sounds in this video, and I don't want you to miss out on a really useful video. It's a little bit long, but really useful. So if you haven't seen the vowel sound video I made, go and check that out. I talked a little bit about register as well in this video. So if you're not 100% sure what that means, or you'd like a couple more examples of the difference between an informal, more casual register and more formal, then go and check out this video.